And the scenarios are very many. That's why we covered only a part of them last time.
Yes.
And this time we are simply adding on. And for our viewers, we remind you that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has challenged first of all the human beings, but he has also challenged even the jinns to join us.
Nice.
So the first challenge is in Surah Al-Baqarah, ayah 23, where he says, وَإِن كُنْتُمْ فِي رَيْبٍ مِّمَّا نَزَّلْنَا عَلَى عَبْدِنَا فَأْتُوا بِسُورَةٍ مِثْلِهِ وَادْعُوا شُهَدَاءَكُمْ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ إِن كُنْتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. So in that verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is simply challenging us that if we doubt, if we have any doubt regarding what Allah has revealed to his slave Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then he tells us, you just come up with a surah like one of the surahs.
I see. Yes.
Then he adds on another challenge. وَادْعُوا شُهَدَاءَكُمْ. Don't just create some text and come and claim that this is the surah.
Yes.
You also have to bring the one that guarantees.
In research, we call it, you have an authority to what you
So yes, you created some surah, which anyone could come up with some whatever random thing. But now Allah wants a confirmation, want to say this surah is correct. And he says, Min dunillah, so you don't say this is also from Allah. Because for the earlier books, people would come and edit and they claim that it also comes from Allah, which is something that is very bad, and indeed it's the reason as to why Allah finally made the Quran as the final revelation. And for it, because it was going to be the final, it didn't allow human beings to come and play around with it. So to this day, the book has never been effectively edited. And given this, the way the Quran is dealt with by the Muslim community globally, you can't even edit it, because there are millions of people that have already memorized the entire book. So once you edit anywhere, they will simply tell you, no, that's not part of the book. So you don't have any chance that you can make any significant change to the book, and it won't be simply thrown aside. So that ayah is therefore challenging us and saying, just come up with one verse. And like we saw last time, one Arab tried to pretend that he's coming up with a verse. Of course, he couldn't get the second part, what the Oshu had, but he came up with some surah saying I'll feel, and he talked about the elephant. Something which was totally illogical and not comparable with the Quran. Because when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveals the surah Al-Fil, he's not explaining to us obvious things like the features of an elephant. Even a child can see the features of an elephant. You don't need a holy book to tell you things you are seeing with your own eyes. But for him, he was explaining the features of an elephant. And even the non-believers who were with him, they simply threw away his concoction and told him, this is below the minimum. Even a local poet would produce a lot better than this. The second one, which is the more complex one, is where Allah tells us in Surah Al-Isra. I think we need to get the verse number. So he says, وَلَئِنِ اجْتَمَعَتِ الْإِنسُ وَالْجِنُّ عَلَىٰ أَن يَأْتُوا بِمِثْلِ هَذَا الْقُرْآنِ لا يأتون بمثله ولو كان بعضهم ببعض ظهيرا. If at all the entire humanity, we are currently 7 billion, we all come together and say today is Quran creation day. 7 billion. The jinns are way more than that, but Allah has challenged the 2 species, because these are the only 2 species that are under examination. The rest of the creatures are not under examination. That shark you see eating others is not under any examination. Once it dies, the story ends there. So the ones that are under examination are the human beings and the jinns. Meaning, once your life expires.
Verse 88.
So Surah Al-Isra, verse 88, is human beings in your entirety, jinns in your entirety, come to a single location. Everyone putting their mind together. The task is create a book like the Quran.
I see.
La ya'tuna bimithlihi. You'll never be able to create it. وَلَوْ كَانَ بَعْضُهُمْ بِبَعْضٍ ظَهِيرًا. Even if you are supporting one another, meaning Allah is saying, We are not saying you create small groups and each one is thinking independently. No, you are combining your entire mental muscle into one focus area.
Yes.
And the objective is, let's come up with this book. We are all working together, not separating ourselves into small, weaker groups. No, the entire 7 billion are merging all their intellectual muscle onto a single point. And that is what he says. So meaning, this book that we are talking about can never be in any way duplicated or attempted in terms of its creation. So we saw a number of facts,
yes,
and the entire thing rotates around the figure 19. Yes. Now remember, 19 is a prime number. We know that prime numbers are those numbers that cannot be divided, that are not multiples of any other number, meaning it stands on its own. Numbers like 12, you have 6, 2, 3, 4, they all can go into 12, but 19, there is nothing else that can go into it. But Allah has picked that 19 and manipulated it in multiple occasions in the Quran, either in terms of number of verses or number of words or number of letters, number of occurrences. And it is something complicated. Yet it does not distort the message. Because we know very well that musicians, for example, can come up with a pattern, but they distort a language, for example. They can speak broken language in order to achieve the pattern. But here, the language remains intact, the message remains intact, but at the same time, we are maintaining this complex mathematical pattern that we need to be aware of.
We have about 10 minutes to the break.
Okay, so the next we did see the number of surahs, the number of verses. Those are things that we have already covered. But we now shall be focusing on these letters that Allah put at the beginning of the surahs.
The abbreviated letters.
Exactly. Now, those letters there have a very special pattern. The ha memes, the alif lam memes. We also saw even that act itself that Allah did, in that He puts some letters in front of a surah. They don't have a very clear meaning for us as human beings, but He does not do it once.
Yes.
He does it in multiple occasions.
Yes.
And we regard that as part of the signature of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So among those letters, there is Nun, there is a Swad, we already saw that there is a pattern already.
Yes.
But we are now going to be looking at those particular letters in terms of their relationship within the surahs in which they are.
Yes.
And the number 19. Remember, everything finally goes back to 19.
Yes.
Let's start with the Nun.
Okay.
There's a surah that is called, we sometimes call it Surah Nun. But we also call it Surah Qalam.
Surah Qalam, yes.
Because the word Nun, since it does not have a lot of meaning, you may not want to give it as a name, but it is, so since the next verse is saying Wal Qalami, you give it a name that is more intellectually understandable. Yes. So Nun is unique. There is no other surah that has its beginning as Nun. Remember, the others can be repeated. Alif Lam Mim, there are many.
Yes,
but this Nun is only one surah. That surah is number 68. The total number of N's, because Nun is like what you would call a letter N in English. So the total number of N letters within that surah.
Oh, the Nuns in the surah.
The Nuns. Because some people that don't know Arabic may not know that the Nun is the N.
Okay.
So the number of times that N or the Nun appears within that surah is 133.
Yes.
Meaning if you count wherever there is a Nun you tick, you'll find it appearing 133 in that surah which we call Surah Nun or Surah Al-Qalam.
Yes.
Now that 133 is also a multiple of 19.
Okay.
It is 19 times 7. Now imagine that pattern. 19 times 7. So that is about Nun.
Okay.
The next letter is Swad. Swad appears as a first letter for 3 surahs.
Okay.
There is Surah 7, there is Surah 19, and Surah 38.
Which incidentally is also the name of Surah 38.
So just like we have Nun being the name of that surah, here Swad is also the name of the surah. So we have said Swad will appear in Surah number 7, Surah number 9, and Surah number 38 at the beginning. Okay, that is clear. And the total number of occurrences of that Swad within those surahs, the 3 of them, is 152.
Yes.
Now you can see really the level of complexity. In the case of Nun, we saw that it's only 1 surah.
Yes.
So technically, you could struggle and make sure that the number tallies. But now with this Swad, it is distributed across 3
surahs, yes.
So meaning you have quite a number of surahs that you are going to have to make a pattern. But within those surahs, simply search for Swad. Everywhere you'll find it. Total number across all the 3 is 152.
Okay.
That 152 is 19 times 8. Which is another very important and interesting affair.
Wow. So interesting.
Then there is Yasin.
As the next set of abbreviated verses, right?
Yes, the next set. We have seen Nun, 1 surah only. Swad, 3 of them. Total number of Swad letter within those 3 has an indication of 19. Then Yasin, in this case we are talking of 2. Remember the other ones have been occurring in a singularity. When we say Nun, that is essentially 1 letter. Then Swad is also 1 letter. But with Yasin, we are talking of 2.
Okay.
We are talking of Ya'u and Sin.
Yes.
In case you have to equate them to the English, you are talking of Y, which is Ya, and S, which is the Sin. I think the English don't have a representation of Swad. That's why it is not very good for one to learn how to read Quran by reading transliteration.
Yes.
I actually did see one scenario where a whole Quran has been transliterated. That one is really not good.
Actually, most
the people should be reading the Arabic text, because you don't have proper equivalences within the English language that can tally with the Arabic.
The Arabic, yes.
Now a letter like that ayin, you don't really have any way of presenting it using the English text. So instead of people spending all their time, I actually found one person trying to memorize Surah to Naba using transliteration.
There's some other one who reposted.
I told him, please, you can study the Arabic properly and come and memorize. You could memorize these few surahs for swala purposes, Kul Huwa Allahu, that one you could transliterate. But a whole you want to deceive yourself with translation. Moreover, even if you know Arabic, the tajweed part is again another story altogether. So mere knowing Arabic also does not save you. You again have to go into the rules of recitation. So Yasin, we are looking now at the letter Ya. Now in that surah, the letter Ya appears 237 times.
Okay.
And the letter S, which is Sin, appears 48 times. If we add these two,
37 plus 48.
237 plus 48, we end up with 285. Now this 285 is also a multiple of 19. It is 19 times 15. So you can see that kind of pattern. when he divides the letter and gives it to multiple surahs, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala distributes the letters across all the three.
Yes.
Now he has combined the letters, and he's not just following the same simple pattern of ensuring that the Y will appear as a multiple of 19 and the sin separate. He now merges the two, so that you have to add before you can be able to get the multiple. So the multiple is 295, which is a multiple of 19 times 15, which is another very interesting scenario.
Wow. Thank you very much. I think before we go to the next set of verses, we may need to stop for a break. So, viewer, we are looking at mathematical miracles that you find in the Holy Quran. Of course, the broader aspect is the scientific nature of the Quran. But of course, within the science, we have different fields or disciplines. You have mathematics, biology, chemistry. We are looking at mathematics. And those of you who are good at mathematics, you can see that there is a lot of division, multiplication here, and it's what we wanted to bring out. But if you are not here in the last episode, we looked at the number 19 as being the foundation for most of the mathematics you're going to find in the Holy Quran. And if you didn't get opportunity to watch it, then you can always check out the YouTube page and then get that recap of that. But you find that for each letter we are looking at, when you count the number of times it appears in a given surah on the whole Quran and you divide by 19, you get a perfect, is it called, you know, there's prime numbers and numbers which have to, there was some time we used to use, I think, one and itself. So either multiple what, I don't remember very well.
You can only divide it. But it are only two factors.
Two factors, one and itself. Okay, very well.
So it cannot be divided
so
by any
for
other
all
number.
the things, the figures we are coming up with, you find that when you divide it by 19, you have to get a perfect whole number. And that's our main emphasis. Yeah. So inshallah, even if the rest of the things don't come out well, at least know that when the figure is got figure out 285, when divided by 19, you should get a perfect whole number. And that's what we try to arrive at. So inshallah, we will be returning after this short break.
Eno ye Salam TV. Tukwaniriza waka eri ebisanyusa. Eri Wi-Fi buli wamu. Eri speedi za internet eza waggulu. Eri obukuumi. Eri obuyambi obuli mu ddaala erisooka. Eri okwanguyirizibwa. Tukwaniriza waka eri MTN Wakanet. Internet yensukkulumu eri buli maka. Kyalira www.mtn.co.ug kasali Wakanet. Tukwaniriza waka nga tuli wamu tewali kitulema.
Let's live it up and party and have cracking good fun. When it comes to entertainment, DSTV's number one.
Is everybody ready to go, go, go?
We've got the zaniest characters to transport you away. The party is cracking, so why not come play? You're gonna love it. We've got so many channels and a ton of new shows, like Disney and Nickelodeon, where anything goes. So live it up with DSTV. We bring the fun. You know we're number one.
I'm one of the scientists now doing research on plastic technology recycling, where we can be able to produce other products from plastic waste. For example, we are trying to develop a plastic tile with sand plastic tile, that it is unbreakable, it can be shifted from one roof to another. So this is a project we are working on. It's our initiative as Kazire Group of trying to reduce waste from the environment. Brothers and sisters, Taso Butonde, for a better Uganda.
This message is brought to you by National Environment Management Authority, Kampala Capital City Authority, Vivo Energy, Airco, Pepsi, Stanbic Bank and NBS TV.
Okulinyisa omutindo gwa Afromobile. Eno yengeri joyinza okuza obujja omutindo gwa Afromobile yo. Funa app ya Afromobile okuva ku mukutu gwa Google Store oba App Store oba ku mutimbagano gwa www.afromobile.com. Londako forgotten password. Tekamu account yo eya Afromobile ozebujja pin code yo. Ojja kufuna obubaka ku email yo okuli ne code empya. Bw'oteekamu code eyo olwo pin yo empya ekkirizibwe. Afromobile emboozi za Africa eza namaddala.
Step up with DSTV and we'll show up by giving you more incredible entertainment.
Well, that's it for me.
Upgrade your subscription between the 13th of January and the 31st of March and get an even higher package for a whole month on us.
What a day he's having!
There's nothing better than putting a little bit in but getting a lot out.
The brothers-in-law just got to town.
Relax, everybody. I'm here.
I've heard good things about you. Don't let me down.
Step up and we'll show up on your home of entertainment, DSTV.
Eno ye Salam TV.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dear viewer of Salam TV, we welcome you back from the short break. This is the Alhidaayah show. In case you're just joining us, we look at Islam and science every Monday from 3 to 4 o'clock. My name is Muhammad Sekala, your host for the show. And today we are continuing with the discussion on mathematical miracles you find in the Holy Quran. So we hinted that the main thing we can pick out from the discussion so far that we've been having is the fact that the number 19 is a magical number or figure that you find in the Holy Quran. First of all, the Bismillah that we read every day has 19 letters. Now, for most of the counting, the multiplications we are doing, we find that most of the things we do are going to take you back the number 19, either as a multiple or a factor of one of the numbers that we get. So we looked at today abbreviated verses, the Mokapweat verses, those that appear as single letters or letters in combination but without a direct meaning, that Allah only and that whose knowledge only Allah has. For example, the letters Alif Lam Mim, Alif Lam Ra, Ha Mim, Yasin, all those do not have a direct meaning by way of interpretation or translation in the Holy Quran. So we had some mathematics that we've started upon. So far we've looked at the letters Nun, the letters Swad, the letters Ya and Sin. And we've had some mathematics attached to them. So inshallah, we want to continue with the discussion. I think with the new letters or something to add on to the ones we've just completed.
So we have now some new letters.
Yes, please.
There's a Ha and Mim. Now, Ha Mim appears in a series of surahs.
Yes.
From 40 up to 46. So all those surahs start with Ha Mim. That's the combination of letters.
Okay.
Now, the interesting thing is that the total occurrence, remember here we look at whenever Allah has now combined the numbers, the letters into two, like where you have Ha Mim, to get the 19 multiple, we look at occurrence of the first one on its own, which is the Ha, and the second one, the Mim, then we add the two. But Allah has also made it a point that the 19 factor on the 19 multiple occurs once you have added all the occurrences in the entire cluster of surahs.
Not one particular surah.
That is the other part which is really something that is
from
beyond the
Surah
human.
40, Surah Al-Ghafir to 46.
Meaning, Allah is not just doing is something that is simple to achieve. We have said he started with a single letter,
Yes,
noon. So he made sure that the noon is only in one surah. And in that surah, the number of occurrences is the same as 19. Then he moved to one where you have two letters, but they are still in one surah.
Actually, the other case was sword, which appears in 3 surahs.
Exactly.
It is one letter, but
appears in 3, and he maintained the same pattern, that occurrences across the entire cluster of surahs where it is appearing. So it's not just an isolated scenario. Now for this Hamim, we've said there are a number of surahs. There is surah 40, 41 up to 46.
Which is about 7 surahs.
Now the total occurrences for the 2 letters, so you have the first letter, which is Ha, and there is the second one, which is Mim.
Yes.
Now if you add the occurrences of those 2 letters across the entire cluster of 7 surahs, you will get a total number of 2,147.
Which is also a multiple of 19.
So that one is the same as 19 times 113.
Oh, wow. Wow.
19 times 113.
I see.
So those ones are all things that are...
So by any chance, if I got the total numbers of Ha and Mim in any 3 or 4 surahs out of the 7, would
now interestingly, Allah has made it in such a way that the individual surahs don't make that combination.
You have to add up.
Meaning, for example, in the surah 40, you'll get a total occurrence of 444, and that is not a multiple of 90. In the next one, 41, you'll get 324. You don't really find anywhere where 19 is making any meaning. It is only after you've added all the occurrences across all the 7.
So that also gives a credence to the fact that if you were to forge one of the surahs and inserted something,
exactly,
it would distort the total.
You will end up unable to.
So in other words, you have first have the 7 all together, and then that's when you get the multiple of 19.
So you can see that Allah made the challenge that we can't produce this book. There is no way you can produce that combination. Moreover, the focus is not on those combinations. Because like we have said in our introduction, when Allah is making these mathematical combinations, his intention is not just the mathematics we are studying of here. He is instead talking of other issues, warning Muslims to be good people, warning them of the akhirah, but at the same time maintaining complex mathematical interconnections between the number of occurrences of these letters. It is something that is not very simple. Because for the human being, you may try to imitate the occurrences mathematically, and you end up with nothing like a message, just some random things that don't make any meaning. But Allah maintains the message, He maintains the flow, and again maintains the fact that all these things have a connection with the number 19.
Okay, so that is the Hamim. Surahs.
Exactly.
Okay.
Then there is the next one. Ain, Sin, Qaf.
That is Surah to Shura.
Surah 42. That is Surah 42.
Surah. Surah, yes.
Now, with this Surah 42, the letters are 3. Ain, Sin, Qaf.
Yes.
The total number of occurrences of our letters,
the 3,
Ain,
3 Sin and Qaf,
is 209.
200?
209. How do we get the 209? Ain occurs 98 times.
Okay.
Sin occurs 54 times. Qaf occurs 57 times.
So when you add up, it comes to 209.
Add the occurrences, you get 209. Does it have any connection with our standard 19? Yes. 19 times 11.
Wow.
That is another combination. 19 times 11. So we say Allah is indeed the greatest. Allahu Akbar. The next set are the alif.
So before we go to the next set, this combination only appears in one surah.
Only one surah, which is Surah 42.
So it resembles the nun, though this time there are 3 letters.
There are 3 letters.
Then,
and as if they are saying this combination is the second surah, so you may need to look at that surah, the way it starts. So Surah 42 is called Surah to Shura. Now, interestingly, this Surah to Shura, it is the only one that has these combinations again separated out into 2 clusters. So the first verse is saying Hamim. Then the second one is saying Ain, Sin, Kaf. So that is again another
so
mechanism.
Isn't there any mathematics when you add up the 2 verses? Maybe we can get that later.
I think that one is not there.
Yes.
But we have seen that once we separate out the Hamim and handle it separate and the Ain, Sin, Kaf, we still get our pattern.
So the Hamim is part of the 7 that we saw.
The Hamim is a separate verse. It's not part of the Ain, Sin, Kaf. And that is another thing that we need to be aware of.
So we go to the next.
The next cluster is the Alif Lam Mim
That's
cluster.
What I was waiting for, because at least
so the Alif Lam Mim cluster is very common, given that it is part of Surah Al-Baqarah. So just after you finish the Al-Fatiha, you find the Alif Lam Mim.
Some people even got the teaching that you read Al-Fatiha and any one verse from the Holy Quran. And what about Alif Lam Mim, Allahu Akbar.
Although that is extreme laziness, there is actually one person that was instead reciting Yasin. Okay, granted it is a verse, but that is now extreme forms of laziness that should not be encouraged among Muslims. You see, we Muslims fear laziness to the level that it is one of those bad things that we pray Allah to protect us against every morning and evening. Al-Kasal. So laziness is a very bad attribute that is actually responsible for the majority of the decay that you see within the Muslim world, because this book is here. It's not like this book just came yesterday. It has been around for years and years. And our ancestors read this book and essentially civilized the whole world. But now our current generation, an extremely lazy lot that is willing to say Allah Akbar, Yasin, then he goes to the what have you recited really? Granted, it's a verse, but it's a lazy form of implementing the rule. Now Alif Lam Mim, we have said there are 3 letters. Alif is the first one. Lam translates into the air in our normal writing, and Mim, which is translated into the M in our normal writing. So that one is a prefix for a number of surahs. First one is Baqarah surah, the second surah. Then we have Ali Imran, which is surah number 3. Then we have 29,
which is Naml.
Then we have 30.
29 the Ankabut.
30. We have 31 and 32.
Sajda.
So those are the surahs that start with that combination of Alif, Lam, Mim.
Okay.
Now, the number of occurrences, because that's the formula we are using. The total solid number of occurrences is 19,874. 19874. That's the
19,874.
That's the total occurrences
all
across all the surahs.
And 6
for the
surahs.
for the one that wants some detail, we can essentially enumerate the detail. In the
Surah Al-Baqarah.
In Surah Al-Baqarah, which is the 2, let me see.
Surah Al-Baqarah is chapter 2 after Al-Fatiha.
The way they've narrated it here is a bit confusing because they've... okay, we can follow the order. In Baqarah, it is 521 times.
When I add the 3 Alif, Lam, and Mim.
Yes.
Add the total number of occurrences.
Then there is 5662. Okay, it is 9899 because Surah Al-Baqarah is a large surah. I don't know whether our listener would be able to enumerate all those numbers. So 9899 in the first one, 5662, which is Al Imran in the second one. Then we have 1672 in the third one, 1254 in the fourth one, 817 in the fifth one, and 570 in the sixth one.
Okay, so 6 surahs. When you
add all of these occurrences, you will get that number 19874 and 19,874.
So when I divide by 19, I get...
that one is a multiple of 19 by 1046. So when you get 19 times 1046, you get that number of hours. And remember that these surahs are quite massive. Surah Al-Baqarah covers how many juz'us?
2.5.
So a juz'u in normal Medina print is 20 pages.
Yeah, of course.
So it means now if you're talking of 2.5, you're talking of the 40, around 50 pages. And the surah is talking of very many things. Banu Israel, fasting, what? But Allah is still able to maintain his pattern that he has done across all the other surahs. Surely Allah deserves to be worshipped.
Wow. So we are drawing closer to the last 10 minutes of the show. We might have to get at another combination.
Then Alif Lam Ra.
Alif Lam Ra.
Alif Lam Ra. Alif Lam Ra is the initial for Surah 10.
Yes.
Surah 11. Surah 12. Surah 14 and 15.
That is Yunus, Hud, Yusuf, Hijr, and
15 is
14 is Ibrahim, 15 is Hijr. Yes.
Total number of occurrences global 9,462. 9462.
Which is multiple.
Which is connected to 19. So that 9462 is the same as 19 times 498. Another miracle. Now, the number of occurrences for Surah 10, it occurs 2489 times. And as if for this one, Allah made it in such a way that even for the individual surahs,
you can
the 19 multiple applies. So for the Surah 10, it occurs 2489, which is 19 times 131. Then for Surah 11, the same number of occurrences.
Wow.
2489, which is 191, and 19 times 131. Then Surah 12, it changes to 2375, 2375, which is 19 times 125.
Wow.
Then Surah 14 is 1197, 19 times 63. Surah 15, it occurs 912, which is 19 times 48.
Yes.
Now this one is again more aligned, because even for the individual surahs, it comes out, and even the final combination for all the surahs will still get our factor of 19.
Okay, thank you very much. So that is the Alif Lam Ra. It appears in surahs that actually only Surah 13 is what is missed out there, but you can see they are in succession. 10, 11, 12, 14 and 15. So 13, I think, has some additional Baliflam, SWAT, something. Should be, yes.
So for the viewer out there, this Quran here is actually the main miracle that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now you'll find that many people tend to ask about the miracles of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They even reach the point of saying, where is it? Bring it.
Bring the miracles.
Now some unserious Muslims even cook up miracle stories. Now, this religion is not your religion.
Yet the Quran is just enough for miracles.
This religion, Islam, is not yours. It's not your responsibility to defend it by cooking up miracle stories. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us why he stopped bringing these obvious miracles of person has died, resurrects, etc. I think it is Surah Al-Isra. The verse says, وَمَا مَنَعَنَا أَن نُرْسِلَ. Nothing prohibited us from sending our signs to the people, except that the ones that came before you belied these miracles. So meaning, you who is making a lot of challenge now, people have been belying these miracles for years and years.
Yes.
There's a man who came to the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam with something in his hand. I think it was a stone. You know that kiswa. If you tell me what is in here, I'll confirm that you are a prophet. Now the Prophet tells him, now that hand's too small. What if I tell that thing which is in there to confess as to what it is? Isn't it a greater miracle? For you want me to guess what is there, but for me I want to now order that non-living thing you are having in there to tell me what it is.
What it is.
And indeed the stone introduced itself.
So I'm coming from Masaka, they preached me, I came by truck.
So you can see that these small miracles, those ones are nothing. Because they are even sometimes done by these jinns and etc. But this Quran, for it is once and for all.
Allah.
It will remain a miracle. However much of AI we shall cook up, there will never arise any force anywhere that will ever be able to come up with this book. And actually the AI, if we really deploy AI to analyze for us the Quran, because you see these patterns that we are studying here, these ones are just human discovered patterns. You may find they are not as complicated. But in case you really deploy the large computer system to even do further analysis, wallahi, you may find even far greater encoding that Allah has done for his book, and he has protected it. All these numbers
so
here,
all these innovations in ICT will be so so elementary.
You see, and that is, I think, a challenge for us as Muslims. Allah has given us this book as a facilitator for our own guidance, and we are also supposed to use it to help others to see the truth. And indeed, Islam is the fastest growing religion because people can be able to relate. Because imagine if you look at all of these things that we are looking at, really, if you are a conscious person, you'll begin to think and say, this book, Banang, maybe I should read a bit. And once you start reading, you'll see the rhyming of the message.
Thank you very much. So, dear viewer, we always want to have discussions so exhaustive and lengthy, but the time that is available to us is just that we need to utilize. So, it is a challenge to, especially the professionals. You know, there's a growing concern that our universities are producing people who reproduce information. So there's limited effort that is being done to challenge people to produce knowledge. Even those who are making research and they come out as researchers, incidentally they are just reproducing the same information, but perhaps with a better methodologies, sometimes twisting something, one or two. But computer scientists, the land surveyors, the mathematicians, those who are experts in physics. I think now we are getting a challenge on how to better present Islam. Can you present Islam? Can you present the Quran in such a way that it is supposed to act as a challenge to everyone in the house to perhaps better appreciate who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is? And because most of the things in Islam are supposed to be self-evident, self-explanatory, and the professionals will have a greater challenge. So if you're at Makerere, Chambogo, and all those science training institutions, the time is now for you to use the knowledge that you have to see that you create better impact, especially in the way you help people appreciate Islam and appreciate Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we want to thank you very much for watching the show. We hope that the information we are giving is supposed to instigate and motivate us to read further, appreciate further, and understand the message that Allah has put in the whole Quran. We are looking at mathematics, but of course, look at the body of the message that there is as well, such that you appreciate Allah in a better sense. Remember, if you miss out on the show, always check it out on the YouTube page. Type Salam. Okay, search for Salam TV, then Alhidaayah, and then Islam and Science. You'll be able to get the information. Otherwise, I want to wish you a very fruitful week ahead and pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continues guiding and blessing us all. Till then, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.